let me tell you about Grandma Dorothea Puente. You're picturing a classic sweet grandma, right? Hair in a neat gray perm, cozy sweaters, big glasses. That's exactly the image she wanted everyone to see. But behind this charming facade, something a lot darker. It's the 1980s in Sacramento, California. Dorothea has this big Victorian boarding house where she takes in the elderly, the mentally ill, and people down on their luck. Most people think she's a saint for helping folks no one else wants to care for. Social workers are practically sending people her way, and she always opens the door with a smile. But soon enough, strange things start happening. Neighbors begin noticing an odd pattern. Residents come and go, but sometimes they just vanish. But Dorothea always has an explanation. They've moved, gone to visit family, or checked into a hospital, so people shrug it off. After all, who would suspect Grandma Dorothea? Here's where it gets weird. Dorothea had this adopted handyman, who she called Chief. Chief was a big guy who struggled with alcoholism and needed a place to stay, so she took him in. But here's what she really took him in for: digging. Chief was seen digging around the yard under her watch, moving loads of soil and garbage. Then one day, Chief himself disappeared. When neighbors asked, she told them Chief had just wandered off. Suspicious? Definitely. But no one took action. It wasn't until 1988 that the truth started to crack open. A social worker came looking for one of Puente's newer tenants, Alvaro Montoya, a man with schizophrenia. Dorothea said he'd gone to Mexico to visit family, but his social worker wasn't buying it. She knew Montoya didn't have family in Mexico, so she reported him missing, and that's when police finally took a closer look. The police arrived to question Dorothea, but they didn't find Montoya. They did, however, notice something odd: patches of freshly disturbed soil in the yard. Dorothea shrugged, acting as casual as ever. But the officers decided to start digging, and within minutes, they hit something hard. Then they realized it wasn't just soil they were digging through. They had just found a body. As they dug up the yard, it turned out Montoya wasn't the only one buried there. In fact, over the next few hours, police uncovered 7 bodies buried all around Dorothea's property. And here's the kicker: Dorothea stood by, cool as ever, blaming it all on natural causes. 7 of her boarders had just died and were buried in her backyard. No big deal, right? Oh, and if you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to subscribe to Talescape for more true crime mysteries just like this. But back to Grandma Dorothea. The police didn't arrest her immediately. They didn't even suspect her at first. She asked if she could step out for coffee while they continued their investigation, and the officers actually let her go. And guess what? She vanished. The sweet grandma image had fooled them all again. For days, she was on the run. By now, her face was all over the news, and the media was dubbing her the Death House landlady. Finally, she was caught in Los Angeles, thanks to a local man who recognized her. She was sitting in a bar, casually talking to another elderly man about collecting pension checks. At her trial, it was revealed just how calculated she had been. Puente had been drugging her tenants, taking their Social Security checks, and slowly killing them off to make it look like they'd just passed in their sleep. For years, she got away with it, cashing in their checks, using their money to keep up her boarding house and her innocent image. Dorothea Puente was convicted of only 3 of the 9 murders linked to her, and she was sentenced to 2 life terms. Until she passed away in 2011 at age 82, she continued to insist she was innocent, saying all her tenants had died naturally. But her innocent grandma act never convinced anyone again. And that's the story of Dorothea Puente, the grandma who turned her home into a death house. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more dark tales just like this one.